Hello and welcome to Walk the Talk. I am Shekhar Gupta in Mumbai's Film City, and my guest today, there are many ways in which you can describe him. You can call him a 4-film wonder or somebody who's got 4 out of 4 right, but really Rajkumar Hirani is somebody who's given us 4 wonderful films.
Hi, glad to be here.
Welcome to Walk the Talk. It's taken us some doing to put this together.
I
I
know.
think third time lucky.
No, I'm really looking forward to it. As I was saying, I've always sat and talked. This is the first time I would be walking and talking.
But you always do something for the first time, even in terms of your films. Even the messages you pick up, because you do pick up messages, but they're different. First
Yeah.
is doctors should be more compassionate,
Correct.
right? Second, non-violence, Gandhigiri.
Correct.
Then you have, if you follow your dream,
Chase excellence and success
chase
will follow.
excellence, success will follow, which is also a story of your life, and we'll talk about it. And fourth now is about superstition and godment. So each time you take a new panga.
No, I actually consciously don't do it. I would say the urge to take an issue and then make a film around it has been only twice. One was PK. Because this has been something very close to my heart since I think I grew up in a house where my father, I would call him agnostic. And so we grew up in an environment where we questioned our existence, that who are we, why are we here, what is the purpose on this planet, and is the God going to really help us in this way? Is there somebody, some force sitting up there and looking at all of us and saying, oh, you're doing wrong, I'll see you there. So
I can say if there is a God, must be Sindhi, because Sindhis make so much money.
So, yeah, so it was only this one and the Gandhi film again, that was close to heart, where I would say started from a theme and then went to a story. But Munna Bhai MBBS and 3 Idiots also, they started as stories one wanted to say. And I think deep within somewhere, then you have these hidden things, you have these little things you want to say. So while you're writing the script, your thoughts come in.
Because 3 Idiots is much more a reflection of your own life.
Correct.
Although you are much younger than me, but that's also the story of many of our lives.
Correct.
Because our direction was set when we were in school.
Absolutely. That time, I think people either went to an engineering school or a medical school. If you couldn't go to that, then you would think of doing commerce, and even if you couldn't get admission to that, you would do arts. That was the hierarchy. So exactly same thing happened with me. I couldn't get into an engineering college, and I started doing commerce. And commerce, then I was told to do chartered accountancy, which I didn't enjoy. So that whole scene, if you see in 3 Idiots, where Madhavan goes to his father and says,
I don't want to
become an engineer. Even if I become one, I'll be very bad. Came from a real life incident in my life where I had to go to my dad. I had to really garner courage. For 7 days I thought, how am I going to say it? Because I thought my father will say, "Acha, engineering nahi kar paye, ab chartered accountant nahi banna hai, to karna kya hai?" But fortunately for me, my father was very different from the father Maddie had in the film. Because when I went to him and I told him that I don't want to become an engineer, I don't want to do chartered accountancy, and he just looked at me and says, "To theek hai na, nahi man lagta to kyun karoge? Come and start working with me." So next day I started working with him.
And what was he doing?
My father came after partition. He grew up in a place called Nawabshah in Sindh there. So after partition, he was a 14-year-old boy. He came from Pakistan in a refugee camp in Agra. Then from there he ended up in Nagpur, and he used to run a typewriting institute. He used to teach typing, and from that it grew to selling typewriters, office equipment like duplicators, those adding machines and calculators and all that he used to sell. So I used to work with him in that period.
And you studied as well at that time?
College was 3 hours in the morning, 7 to 10 college jate the, and 10 to 6 was time with dad, go and sell these typewriters, calculators. And evening was my time, and I kind of discovered a theatre group there and I started enjoying it. So 6 to 12 at night, evening was our time to do plays, and used to write, direct, act. And some way my father saw that, and I really look back and admire that, growing up in that era, where in a typical Sindhi house, any father would have said, "Ki acha beta bada ho gaya, now let him come and join my business."
Exactly.
He had the vision to see that, okay, this is what he is good at. and he really enjoys that. So he told me, so why don't you go into films? Why don't you go and make films? This is
So
what-
more than you realizing it, that this is what I really wanted to do, it was your father.
I think so. I think so. He
That-
was,
that breaks the
I was
stereotype.
enjoying what I was doing, the plays I was doing, but I never thought that this could become a profession. I thought I'll have to find my way. I'll have to do something in Nagpur. I'll grow up and see whether I'll work with him or I'll do something on my own. That would always keep bothering me. But when he said that, it made sense to me. I said, yeah, I can actually step out. And and we knew nobody in Bombay, so he said, why don't you go to a film school? So I applied to a film school, Film Institute in Pune, FTI. And I applied for the direction course. Didn't get in first time. Then I started doing law for 1 year and then I applied again. Then I applied for editing because somebody told me कि editing में कम लोग apply करते हैं उसमें कर दो मिल जाएगा. तो उसमें apply किया उसमें फिर हो गया admission and my whole purpose was कि let me get into the institute then I'll go and do what I want to do. Yeah.
And then you got into editing and then
Yeah.
grew into direction.
I got into editing, but now when I look back, I think it was kind of a blessing in disguise because today when I look back, I think editing is my core.
You edit your own films.
I edit my own films, and editing taught me to look at cinema in a particular way. So even when I'm writing a script, I think I'm even editing there. When I'm shooting, I'm editing there. So there's very little wastage, and the kind of film runs in your head constantly. And even shooting, actually, all the actors joke with me. He says, "ये तो shoot में edit करता रहता है, वो pauses बोलता है, अभी कम कर दो, यहाँ pauses निकाल दो, यहाँ मत रखो." While I'm writing, I'm very conscious of every extra word in the scene.
Right.
So it's something which really helped.
So, and editing got you your first jobs also. First jobs, work more than jobs, just a living.
Yeah. I came to Bombay and that time jobs were difficult to find because television had come in. By the time we came in, but there were few channels. So we were trained for cinema. We were not trained for television. To cinema, there was very little work. So I remember first 6 months I had no work. In that first 6 months I did one ad film, did one bit of a documentary track laying. Then we went back to the institute. They called us and made us do a 1-month course, which was a nice thing they did. So after that, when we came back, we could now work on television. So I actually joined a small studio, worked as an in-house editor in that studio for a couple of months. Because even if you thought you were good, the world didn't know. So you had to work with some people for them to go out and talk about you.
And you were then editing ads,
Editing?
ad films.
That happened later. Initially, I edited whatever came my way. I did television serials, I did documentaries, I even did feature films. Some of them got made, some of them didn't get made, didn't release. Then I met a bunch of people who were doing ads, and I started doing ads with them. And somehow I kind of connected with the advertising crowd, I should say. They were easy to work. Work was for a shorter duration. You were assured your money that you'll get your money because for us at that moment survival was a issue. So then I kind of quit everything.
Any particular people in the ad world or particular creative people that you came in contact with or you were influenced by?
See, I used to work with directors. So I used to work with, there were these directors called like Dilip Ghosh, who just made a film. Veena Bakshi. Veena Bakshi was married to Piyush Pandey. And so through her, I got to know Piyush. Then I started doing a lot of work with Piyush.
I think he also featured you in some of his commercials. I think the first Fevicol commercial.
That was, see, I actually wasn't consciously wanting to be a model or something. I was editing all those films. So that film I was editing. And when I was editing for people, I would not be just an editor who will get into, I would be there at the shoot, I would be there when television is being done, then I would edit, take it right through the presentation. So I was on the sets and the one model who was supposed to come for Fevicol didn't turn up, something happened, he fell ill. And these guys knew that I do a lot of theatre, so they said, यही मिलेगा और ये फ्री में करेगा.
लगा दो.
तो इसको लगा दिया. और उसके बाद फिर I started getting a lot of ads. I did like some about 15 odd ads.
Which Fevicol ad was this?
This was the first Fevicol ad. दम लगा के हईशा हुए. They say all these bodybuilders are
Because
pulling.
they've all been great ads. Although I must say I'm not very fond of the latest one, the Indian and Pakistani soldier. I think that's a bit stereotyped, but they've all been great ads.
Yeah, they've been trying unusual things. They've
Right.
been Piyush ends up writing some very interesting.
Then real filmmaking. How do you get to Munna Bhai? How do you invent the character? How do you discover your partner since then, Vinod Chopra?
See, I edited for many years. Then I said I got into advertising and I started slowly making ad films. They started giving me smaller films. Then I started my production house called Canvas Films, and I was doing pretty well making ad films. I always wanted to make a feature film. Nobody comes to this city to make ad films. You come and say, you want to make a feature film.
Right.
So Vinod, I had interacted in my editing days. I had edited his promos for 1942 Love Story, Kareeb. Sanjay Bansal used to work with Vinod then, and and we were together in the institute. So
He was also studying editing.
he was also studying editing. We passed out the same time. He got into filmmaking, started assisting Vinod, and I started editing. I was doing all kinds of stuff. So he called me saying 1942 is being made, and we were just, I think, 2 years old in Bombay then. And he said, would you like to edit the promos? And promos were a new thing. People were still not making promos that time. So I was very excited. My excitement was more than that, to see the film. I said, film dikhaoge na? तो इस फिल्म दिखाएंगे के बिना कैसे एडिट करोगे. So I went there. So that was my first interaction with Vinod, and I finally found somebody who was very passionate about cinema, and he was very passionate talking about his films. So during that phase, we enjoyed working with each other, I think, and then we went off. Then he called me 3-4 years later when he was doing Kareeb. Again, I edited for him. Again, 3-4 years passed. Then he was making Mission Kashmir, and Renu Saluja used to edit for Vinod. She passed away. So he called me saying, would you edit this film? By the time I had quit editing and I was doing my own stuff. But then I went and I started editing. But that film gave me a lot of joy, and I suddenly saw how passionately people were involved. Vinod was there. Mission Kashmir. Vinod Pradhan, the cameraman. Ram Madhwani was helping Vinod on a particular sequence, and there was passion. They were obsessed about making it work, which was not my interaction when I had earlier came and on the films I had worked. So this gave me real chance. I said, this is joy. You know, when you make an ad film, you make an ad film. Of course, you enjoy it, but this gives you real joy. So after that film, I went back. I told my office that now for 1 year I don't want to work. I want to write a script, because I had 3-4 scripts which are half written. So the whole office was shocked. I said, how much money we have? I think we can survive for 2 years. Let's make a film. So for 1 year I didn't work and wrote a script, which was Munna Bhai MBBS.
And from where did that character come up, Munna Bhai?
See, a lot of my friends, after 12th, I went to commerce. A lot of my friends went to medical school. So I spent a lot of time with them. And since I was doing theatre then, I would kind of write anything which was funny or emotional and keep it in a diary. So I had a lot of anecdotes from medical college. So I had written when I was in the film school, I had written a film about 3 students wanting to become doctors and what happens in their life. So it was a funny film, but it was very anecdotal in nature.
Those were the original 3 idiots in a way.
In a way, yeah.